We get an entire video package for the WrestleMania main event rematch. Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks. Someone spent a lot of time on this video package. God bless this person. Out comes Bianca Belair first. And then in the ring, as you are just seconds away from the match that closed night one of WrestleMania, the match everyone was buzzing about after both nights of WrestleMania, Greg Hamilton announces Sasha Banks can't compete tonight. Instead, Carmella is going to face Bianca Belair. This crowd was pissed, and I do not blame them. And let's start off there before we get into everything else. Okay? Sasha Banks missed both live events last week. She was off SmackDown. They knew she was not going to be competing tonight. And I think it was a big mistake to just play as if this match was going to be happening literally until the last second. And I think this could have been handled in a much better way of just explaining, even on 24 hours notice, there are circumstances. Sasha Banks will not be available. However, we have secured an opponent for Bianca Belair that she has never faced before. And it's, to me, it's pointing everyone in the direction. Everyone is going to want Becky, and you have 24 hours of buzz for it. And instead they did this. And this is not even getting to the match portion. But Kate, what did you think of just how they handled this, of what was hardly a throwaway match on the show? I would imagine there were plenty of people. This was the most anticipated match for them.
For me, it was between this and Rollins and Edge. Those were the two matches that I was thinking, okay, whatever else happens in the card, I think these are the ones that are going to pull it out. So yeah, when you start hearing, like, it started to seem like a joke at some point, because you keep hearing, now look, I'm more on Twitter, I'm hearing more news about what's going on than the average person. So to me, it just started seeming stupid. You're hearing that Sasha's not there, that she's not, but people may have been aware, like they may have been aware that she had missed shows. They certainly would have been aware that she wasn't on SmackDown. So at some point, basically every single thing that they did with this, I would have done differently. And I guess, thank God there wasn't an example in the wrestling world of audience anticipation being managed really well that we could use as a comparison to what they did that would make them look worse. I cannot imagine the thought process. And I've tried to. I'm like, okay, if they were really stuck, if they were really in a bad position, but they were stuck days ago. They had days to work around this. And they did. I think they could have introduced this really sort of juicy match. We'll get to it in a second, but they have the ability to build anticipation with that. And like you said, they don't even have to say who it is. As soon as the announcer said Sasha wasn't cleared, you heard people chanting for Becky. Everyone would have known. It would have been very clear where this was headed. There was no reason. I felt kind of sorry for Carmella in this, because just to bring her out,
she was literally put into the role of
the crowd.
Yeah, she was put in a terrible position to be out there as oh my God, you can't possibly be using her as the replacement. I mean, Nate, on top of it.
Oh, the one she's beat 3 times?
Exactly, and did the night before. Nate, on top of it, it's like you are announcing this to people in the moment. And as big as Becky coming back is, it's offset by, you're not even cushioning the blow of you're losing out on the Sasha match that I would have at least done that at minimum the night before. So at least you have a day that people accept, okay, there's circumstances beyond their control. The match is off. And again, you tease it. And to me, if you're teasing a mystery opponent, you do that when you have a big person to deliver. And I don't think there's anyone bigger they could deliver realistically than Becky Lynch. And you have that card to play. So let the speculation run rampant, and then you're delivering on it tonight. And I just think that would have been just playing to both. It's like you have a pretty understanding audience if they explain she's not cleared and we have an opponent, and just wink, wink, drop a hint and just lead people in that direction and then pay it off. that's definitely the way I would have gone about this.
As a fan of Sasha too, I was uncomfortable because now I'm left wondering, like, is she okay? Like, what, not cleared how? Like, yeah, okay, obviously the mind goes to COVID. We're in the middle of the pandemic, but we don't know that. And so now I'm like, well, is she injured? Is this a long-term thing? It's like, it seemed to come up kind of abruptly. Like, it's, give her fans something too. Like, acknowledge that this is the real world. Injuries happen, sickness happens. You can work with it.
And the fact that not only did they promote it in the pre-show, John, but we just did this damn video pack. When you know this woman isn't coming out, man, I felt like that was just disrespectful to your audience. Because, like you said,
Absolutely.
the audience is forgiving.
Absolutely.
They'll go along with a lot. They'll put up with a lot from these wrestling companies. But I thought that was just, it put your performers in a bad spot, and the spot would get even worse in a few minutes. And it didn't, like, it was just, you've got all of these talented performers, and this is the way you choose to put these pieces together, to put these stories together. Like, it set the tone, John, for what was going to be a very dark period of this pay-per-view, man.
Yeah, Nate, I think that you and I I was just going to say, like, I think that you and I may be on the same page. For me, the show went off the rails at this point, and yeah. Like,
well, I think this one, I had
a lot of frustrations from this point on.
So Carmella's out there, and yeah, she's just in this terrible position where she's like the worst case scenario. That's what she's being presented as to this crowd. That just, it's not even heat for Carmella.
It's a joke.
It's heat for the company that you're taking this match and this is what you're giving us in return. So Belair announces that sooner or later I will get Sasha in this ring, and they're getting ready to start the match when Becky Lynch's music hits, and the place is just a thunderous roar for Becky. It's her first appearance since May of last year. She comes out, she takes out Carmella, tosses her into the steps, and then has the face-off with Bianca Belair, makes the challenge, and Belair accepts. And I think at this point, it's like the audience is, I think they're still in surprise, like they're still reacting like we lost the Sasha match, but this is pretty cool. We're getting Becky's return. So I think it's like you've gone in two extremes, and I think it's almost a push at this point. But it would not be a push for Bianca Belair, as we would see moments later, because the match is accepted. Becky puts out her hand for a handshake. The code of honor is not followed through as Becky sucker punches Bianca and hits the manhandle slam and pins Bianca in 26 seconds to win the SmackDown Women's title. This place was like, it was the pop you get for it's a title change, but man, this crowd, it's like you took away the big match with Sasha, and in a weird way, you dangled a very intriguing match and almost took that away from us as well. So it's like you screwed us twice in the span of 5 minutes.
And what's the state of your women's division after this? You have Becky, who's now the champion, who I think a lot of people will question, is she really ring ready coming back, or was this just done to protect her? But we'll see. That's one thing. She just beat Bianca in 26 seconds. So Bianca does not look like a credible threat. Maybe you can say, like, oh, well, you surprised me. Carmella looks like a complete fool. Zelina Vega, 0-4, coming back. Toni Storm made one appearance, hasn't shown up. Mia Yim is in theory on the roster. Natalia and Tamina are doing the tag thing. Shotzi Blackheart, Tegan Knox doing the tag thing. Like, who do you have for Becky to fight with? Especially if there's an issue with Sasha.
Yeah, like Nate, I imagine they run this back, and again, to Kate's point, like maybe it was a case where they had to find someone to replace Sasha, and Becky, maybe. To me, it's like, I can't imagine it's such a case where you couldn't do a semblance of a match. And I just think, given the fact that people were like, you would have earmarked, a significant amount of time for Belair and Banks, that you had to at least give people a match beyond this. I just thought that Becky's return, like this has been a year and a half, and I just think they really trivialized it, because coming out of this, it was, to me, just looking at, like, we didn't really get a match. It was sort of this bait and switch with Sasha Banks all week. And on top of it, like, we didn't even get a match in its place. And I think it like took off some of the steam of Becky's return. I just didn't think it did.
Well, she looks like an asshole.
She kind of got positioned like that. Like she suckered Belair here with this false handshake.
Yeah. It's like people will cheer her, but she's clearly the jerk in this in this equation. Bianca got really screwed over. Like, I guess, like, instead of all of the, like, I was looking at that and it's like, oh, they turned Bianca into the female Kofi. Like, that's exactly, it's like just sort of have her get beaten in like a few seconds and like, okay, we're done with that.
What could Bianca and Kofi have in common, John Pollock? I don't know, man. Look,
well, you look at it as well, and I'll throw like Daniel Bryan into the mix. And I know that people are going to compare this to Daniel Bryan. It's like, guys, in 2012, that layout, that was not designed to get Daniel Bryan over. Okay, that was 100% for Sheamus, and it was a complete. And when the audience got behind Bryan, beginning the next night, dude, it was 2 years before they really went with Bryan, and their backs were against the wall. So, like, I don't look at that either as this crafty idea that this is going to help Bianca. If you want to make that argument, I think Bianca is one of the few performers that they have done a really great job with this year. And I would say this is the most significant misfire with Bianca tonight, regardless of whether they go back to this match next month. And I think by necessity, they have to. I think you have to do the proper match. But I just look at this entire promotion, and if you could go back a week, I'm doing a significant redo of this to the point that maybe you just say, if we can't do a full match and 26 seconds is our option, maybe we just come clean and say, hey, this match can't happen. And you save Becky's return for when you're ready to do it. This to me did not work. And it just took a lot of air out of the sails of Becky's return. And there's not a whole lot of returns you get to do. Like, you only get to do this first impression, this return once.
Yeah.
And
only get to give it away once.
Yeah, they wanted their CM Punk moment, and they tried twice. One moment was more successful than the other. In terms of this right here, John, like, it feels like they were too clever by half, because it's like, you didn't even have to do this match. You could have had Bianca roll through Carmella, then Becky comes out, and we set this up, and we actually build to something. Because it works. We saw last night, John, if you tell people something is coming, even if you just hint at things, people will turn up. And so, like, John, and maybe this is something that you're not saying, but I've seen it already tonight. People like, just wait until the story. Let them tell the story. Like, they're obviously going somewhere with Bianca. Like, come on, man. I'm a grown-ass man, John Pollock.
No.
I've been watching wrestling since 1986, man. And I've been watching the WWE since that time, man. When people tell you who they are, believe them, right? Like, I had the same conversation with people when Kofi got squashed by Brock. It's like, oh, this is going to lead to Kofi coming back with more intensity. And this is going to lead to,
Never was.
Right. And it didn't. And, like, you can say Bianca's at a different point in her career than Kofi, and they have more invested in Bianca, but I'd be a fool, John Pollock, to put my faith and my trust in this creative team that has told me so many times that A, we don't know how to really book women. B, we really certainly don't know how to book Black women. And C, like, we're trying to do anything right now, throwing stuff at the wall to see if it sticks, to keep up with this other company that we say isn't competition, man. Like, and I think, like, everything, like, this whole next 5 minutes just really got, and you could tell, John, by my voice, like, really got me annoyed, because not only did we take Bianca Belair, who had this historic matchup with Sasha Banks, we sent these girls to the ESPYs and promoted like this was a big deal. And this was a big moment, these two Black women breaking through. And then we did this to her. And then I guess as a make good, we brought out the two Black Olympians, because, hey, we like Black people. It's like, come on, Vince. I'm not buying it, man. I'm not buying it.
But that makes it more obvious. That makes the problems more obvious, not less. It's like, oh, look, we're bringing out the Black people. So, like, we don't really have problems with Black performance. I completely agree with you. I was deeply, deeply uncomfortable. And this, like, to have Becky just walk out, having not been in a ring for a year and a half, and squash your champion, how that diminishes that wonderful match at WrestleMania that Bianca and Sasha had. It tears away at that moment. It leaves a stain on it, and that annoys me, because I thought that the WrestleMania match was one of my favorite WWE moments the entire year. And I don't get where they're going with this, but I don't think they do either. I think that they're just going for the pop in the moment, and they don't.
This diminished Becky.
I don't trust them to fix this. Absolutely.
I like Becky, but Becky doesn't come out of this any better in my eyes because of this match. Like, this is something you really should have built and made this a special event, much like Sasha and Bianca. But no, we got this because we want to get people talking, because we're tired of hearing them talk about that guy in Chicago for the last 16 hours.
So this is when on Friday, Bianca comes out and says, I don't know if everyone forgot, but 2 weeks ago, I have a legally binding contract that says Sasha Banks on this contract. I don't think it says the man, because that title is coming back to me. And they do the impossible and turn Bianca Belair, maybe the most relatable babyface they've had in the last 5 years, and they turn her.
Yep.